Good afternoon. Today we are going to be making stuffed pasta shells. We love pasta in this country. We eat a considerable amount of pasta in this country. It is insane. This recipe is a concoction of various different recipes, some of my own, some of my mother-in-law's, who is Italian and Native American, and I would like you to follow along with me as I make this video and as I make this meal so that you can make an amazing stuffed pasta dish at home. Now, the key ingredient to a lot of really good Italian meals are a type of tomato. They're really hard to get in the United States, but you can find them, and I'm talking about the San Marzano tomato. All right, San Marzano tomatoes come from Italy. The reason why I'm using canned San Marzano tomatoes today instead of the ones that I'm growing currently in my backyard is that, as you can tell, the ones in my backyard are not quite ready. As soon as they are ready, I can pluck them and I can make some good pasta sauce. Okay, now aside from using San Marzano tomatoes, we're also going to be using some tomato paste. This is tomato paste in a tube. You can find it in a can. I've kind of grown into tubed tomato paste. It's a thin aluminum tube. It has a screw cap so you can use exactly what you need, and then you can save the rest, and everything's good to go, and there's no additional products needed in order to save your tomato paste. What we are making is a red sauce. Remember, in an earlier video, I mentioned how there was 5 mother sauces, okay? In culinary cuisine, there are 5 mother sauces. We're also going to be using some garlic, and we're going to be using, out of the way, an onion. Now, you can use a white onion, you can use a yellow onion. You don't want to really use a red onion. If you don't like the flavor of an onion, you can substitute it for a shallot. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to use an onion, garlic, tomatoes. We're also going to use some parsley. We're also going to use some oregano. Okay, this is oregano from my garden. It grew, harvested, dried it, did all that fun stuff. We use quite a bit of it. This is actually the 4th jar that we just opened up not really too long ago. Before we can get started with anything, we have to make the sauce. So to get started with the sauce, we're going to take our San Marzano tomatoes and we're basically going to dump them into a pot here. Okay. So once we have them all in there, we're going to put the heat on to low, and we are going to take a fork or a potato masher, and we are going to push down the chunks of the San Marzano tomatoes. We're not really going for like a puree. We want a little bit of chunkiness to the sauce. Now, while we have the sauce or the tomatoes cooking down a little bit, what we can do is we can work on our garlic and our onion. The most dangerous thing in the kitchen is a dull knife. What we're going to do with the onion here is we are basically going to cut it from stem to root. So that's basically from this end here to that end there. Once we cut it that way, because we're going for a dice, so we cut it that way, then we can peel the onion and get ready to dice it. Like I said, we're basically going to take it from here to there, all right? When holding objects that you're going to be cutting, don't hold them with your fingers extended like so. You're just asking to be cut. What you want to do is you want to curl your fingers, all right, and you want to use your knuckle, right, as a guide for the knife. This way you will not cut your fingers at all. Okay, it's real simple, right? You can chop all day. As long as you're using that knuckle, you can look away, you can look at other people, all right? You won't cut yourself as long as you use your knuckle as a guide, okay? You want to use or let the weight of the knife do the cutting for you, okay? So we're basically going to cut the onion, all right? Now that we have the onion cut, we're going to peel. We want to get all the edge off, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut the end off right here. That's the root end. That's the stem. We're basically going to cut the stem off, like so. We're going to do the same for the other one. All right. Now comes the fun part. What we're going to do is, remember we're dicing. We're going to take the knife and we're going to make some cuts all the way along, all the way down to the other end. And we're going to take the knife as close as we can to the root without actually going to the root. We're not going to cut all the way through. We're going to cut to where there's a little bit of onion left on the end to hold the onion together, okay? Okay, so now that we have those cuts, we will turn the onion, we'll turn the knife to a horizontal level, and we will make a couple slices horizontally along the onion going back. You can go 1, 2, 3. It's really up to you and the size of the onion. We're going for a dice here, so I'm going to go it a couple times. Now, hold the onion together, and as you cut the onion, okay, it will basically come apart in a nice dice. And there you have a dice. Do that for all of your onions. Now that the onions are chopped, we'll just add the diced onions to the sauce. The recipe will be in the description below. Please, if you like what you're seeing, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you liked about this video, what you didn't like about the video. Maybe you can throw in a suggestion, maybe something that you want to see me cook. And, you know, we'll go from there. Next, it's time to address the garlic. Now, this is a bulb, all right? We only need a couple cloves. All right, so to get the garlic out of here, we're going to basically peel it open. That's what we want right there, okay? The next problem with the garlic is it still has a layer of coating. We have to get that off of there, okay? The absolute best way that you can get that off of there is you lay it flat, take your knife, place it on top, take your hand, and just give it a good smack, all right? There's our garlic. Now, we are going to loosely chop the garlic. Sideways. And then we'll rock it. And then that will go right into the sauce. Parsley is a very strong ingredient. I have here fresh parsley. I'm not a big fan of using the stems, so I'm actually going to remove as much of the stems as possible. Now, anytime you're cutting fresh herbs, you can always identify if you are cutting the herbs correctly or not, simply by how your cutting board looks. If your cutting board is white, and it starts to turn green, that means you are bruising the herb that you're using, and you're basically taking a lot of flavor out of the herbs. All right, so my cutting board is a wood cutting board. It's very easy, just like a white cutting board, it's very easy to identify stains and colors. This has been rinsed. We want to loosely chop the herbs. We don't want to mash the herbs. We want to loosely chop the herbs. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get as much as I can bundled together. All right. Now comes the moment of truth. We're going to basically scoop it back, and we're going to see if the cutting board turned green. Damn, look at that. Your boy can cut. That's what really matters. All right, so now we're going to take this, and we're going to put this over into the pot of the red sauce. It's basically going to add a little bit of flavor, which is exactly what we want. As you see, we have it in the pot, so we're just going to stir it in. I'm going to get it all mixed in here. All right, so I have my oregano. I do not have a measuring cup here, mostly because the way I've seen my mother-in-law do it is it's usually off of an eye. So I would say about a tablespoon and a half of oregano. Go ahead and get that mixed in there. Remember, this red sauce is slowly cooking. And once we get it to a nice consistency, we'll add salt, and then we'll add the tomato paste, and then we're going to put it on a back burner so it can sit there and just slowly cook while we work on the meat filling for the stuffed pasta shells. For the meat filling, we're going to be using ground pork, and we're going to cook that down until it's nice brown color, and we're going to use some ricotta cheese, and we're going to chop up some cilantro, some basil, some parsley. That's going to go together with the ricotta cheese and the meat mixture, and that's going to be the center filling for the stuffed pasta shells. All right, so we have a really nice look going on here with the red sauce. So now what I'm going to do is add we're going to add some salt. I always use kosher salt. Next up, we're going to add some tomato paste. For the pasta, we're going to get some water into a pot, and we're going to fill it up pretty decent. The shells are pretty big, so we're going to fill this pot up as high as we can. We're going to put the heat on to a medium heat. Now, somebody asked me one day why I was putting salt in the water. Well, it's really simple. Salt helps the water boil. All right, you don't want too much salt in the water because it'll become salty, salt water taste, and you don't want that in your pasta. But the salt helps the water boil a little bit. Into my beloved cast iron skillet will go some olive oil. We're going to turn the heat between low to medium, and we're going to let this get a little bit hot. All right, so into my iron skillet is some olive oil, and what we're going to do is add the ground pork. Okay, now, how can you tell if your skillet is ready? Simple, it'll sizzle. That's how you can tell that your skillet is hot. So we're going to put all the ground pork that we have in here. It's roughly 2 pounds. So we're going to put all of our pork in here. All right, so all we're going to do here is just ground up the ground pork. We're going to put some good color to it. Color's flavor. You basically cook it just like you would ground beef. Now, when it comes to stuffed pasta shells, you can use whatever filling you want for the stuffed pasta shells. Some like to keep it somewhat vegetarian by using just cheese. Some like to put a little meat in it. I'm using pork, pig, basically. And what we're going to do is we're going to get this ground down. And at the same time, we're going to add a little bit of salt. All right, as you can see, our ground pork has some good, it's cooked basically, it's got some good color. It's all broken down. There's no raw meat left, which is good. You don't want to eat raw pork. You don't want to eat undercooked pork either, so make sure that you cook it all the way through. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are actually going to transfer this all over to a bowl, and it's most likely going to be my stand mixer, believe it or not. And we are going to start mixing together the rest of the ingredients for the filling of the stuffed pasta shells. So let's go ahead and get this transferred over to the stand mixer. All right, so I got my bowl for the stand mixer. I have a scoop, and all we're going to do is we're going to add all of the ground pork into the bowl for the stand mixer. Now you'll notice in the pan there's a little bit of greasy fat left in the bottom. We don't need that. We don't want to use that for this, so we're just going to let it sit. Now while we wait for the pork to cool down a little bit, we're going to work on the other seasonings that will go into the meat filling, or go into the filling. So we're going to get ourselves a plastic bowl, and we are basically going to chop up, loosely chop some cilantro, some basil, some parsley, and we'll probably throw in some oregano as well. That's going to go into the mixture along with the ricotta cheese for the filling. All right, so in this bowl I have some loosely chopped parsley, basil, cilantro, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of salt. We don't want a lot. Some fresh crushed pepper. Again, not a lot. And then we're going to basically get this all mixed up together. Get this all stirred around, mixed in. So we're going to put ricotta cheese, ground up pork, and some seasonings, some Italian seasonings. And we are going to mix them all together into the stand mixer, and this is going to be our filling for the stuffed pasta shells. Into the stand mixer goes one whole container of ricotta cheese, liquid and all. Don't worry about it, it's okay. Get that all in there. Next, we're going to dump in the seasonings. Next up, we will add the paddle attachment. Put it down, lock it in. We're going to babysit this on low speed until it is all thoroughly mixed together. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our mixture. Now, this is the cheese and pork and seasonings mixture. This is what's going to go inside of the pasta. I have here an extremely long or large piping bag, and we're going to fill it up. Now, the best way that you can fill up a piping bag is, believe it or not, grab yourself a cup, and you're going to put the cup down. Okay, once you have the cup down, take your piping bag and just drop it into the cup. Okay, open up the bag, and you basically just drape the bag over the cup. And what this does is it keeps your piping bag standing upright so that you have a way to put the mixture in there, whether it's frosting or a meat mixture, meat and cheese mixture like this. All right, this is honestly the best way that you can put anything into a piping bag. And all we're going to do is spoon it right in there. I actually had to turn this down a little bit because I had a lot of water spilling out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put in our pasta shells. Okay, so we have the pasta ready. It is al dente. We're going to pull it out of the water utilizing the strainer. And what we're going to do is transfer all the pasta into a bowl. And there is our pasta. So now that we have our pasta made, it is al dente. It's not fully 100% cooked, which is what al dente is. So now it's time to get the shells stuffed and ready to go into the oven. To do that, we are going to place the shells into a couple of glass dishes. Now, in order to get the pasta shells to not stick to the glass, okay, instead of using grease, we are going to line the bottoms of the glass with the homemade pasta sauce. So what you'll do is you'll grab a ladle All right. If you have a metal ladle, that works. Plastic ladle, wood ladle, it doesn't matter. You need a ladle. All right. Ladle, ladle, ladle. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to take some of the homemade pasta sauce. Spread it all over the bottom like so. Now that we have the bottoms lined, we can take the pasta shells and we're just going to basically stick them in curve side down like so. And you're going to put in as many as you can. Just follow the pattern that you have going and get as many shells in there as you can. And we are going to take the piping bag and the filling and we will begin to fill the pasta. You will repeat this process for all of your pasta shells. So there is our stuffed pasta shells ready to go into the oven. My oven is set at 425. These will not take very long in the oven to cook. If you have it at 350, you just want to pop them in there for about 15-20 minutes. These are only going to go in for maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. I'm going to keep a very close eye on them. Now you can put as much or as little filling as you want into these shells. The choice is really yours. As soon as the shells are done, we'll take them out, we'll plate them up, and we will dress them with some freshly grated Parmesan cheese on top of the homemade pasta sauce. We are going to plate these up. So how we're going to do that is we're going to get a little fancy. We're going to take some of our homemade pasta sauce and drop it right into the middle of the plate, like so. We will grab our shells and we will arrange them fairly fancy-like, like so. Put a little bit of the pasta sauce over each one. Then we'll put some freshly grated Parmesan over the top. And there we have our stuffed pasta shells.